All right, I haven't been on Reddit in a while. I am in the Socialist Rifle Association. Let's check out what the SRA is up to these days. See what's going on in their Reddit here. So let me go to their main page here.
My first purchase, Chinese Type 54. Feels good to be holding a piece of history.
Okay, let's go ahead and keep scrolling here.
Cleaned my usable rifles tonight. SKS, High Point, Mosin Nagant.
Gentlemen, I'm proud to show off my first ever gun that I just got, a Krivena Zastava M70.
I got my first rifle the other week, a Mosin Nagant, the OG fascist killing machine.
CZs are high quality, and they provided arms to the anarchists and anti-fascists during the Spanish Civil War, so there's that.
Honestly, I feel there is some elitism when it comes to the obsession of the ARs and AKs.
I already know what some people might say, but this is my first gun and I'm proud of it.
Excellent. We are never beating the allegations, y'all. So with Donald Trump winning the latest election, I've noticed a lot of leftists or new leftists have come into the firearms community looking for answers, looking for guidance on their first purchase, what constitutes a good rifle, what constitutes a good handgun. And a pattern that I've noticed a lot, not even just recently, but in the last few years, is the concept of what's known as the Red Fud. For those of you that don't know, a Red Fud is someone, typically a leftist, but not always leftist, it could be someone else, who believes that a Soviet era or a Combat gun, or really a surplus from Soviet Russia, or really any of those Eastern European countries, they believe that those guns from that era are just as good, or even in many times they believe they are superior to modern options like an AR-15, and they ignore any logic or reasoning to the contrary. So when these new people come into the community, they're asking, hey, what qualifies as a new gun? Oftentimes a Red Fud, they'll tell new people that something like this, the SKS, is a viable alternative to an AR-15 in 2024 here in the United States. This is what I would consider magical thinking. Not only is this wrong, I consider this dangerous as well, because you're giving someone bad advice and you're coaching them down the wrong path for someone that is trying to protect their life. In this video, I'm going to talk about the concept of the Red Fud, why this is a flawed logic of thinking, why this is problematic, and hopefully I'll have a few people on that will tell us their thoughts and what we can do to move past this.
My opinion on Red Fudds is that I think the culture behind it is ultimately kind of harmful to the leftist gun ownership as a whole. And what I mean by that is that a lot of them are prioritizing hobbyist mentality of ownership of firearms like it's a toy almost, over practical training, over practical needs, over practical applications. And why that becomes harmful is that they're not updating, using skills that are proven. They're not using equipment that's proven, and they're more or less treating it like a consumerist item or trying to fit into an image that's really just not necessary.
Collect whatever the fuck you want. I don't care if you collect Magic cards, Funko Pops, 40K figurines, right? But like, no one out there is claiming that a Funko Pop or 40K minifigures are a thing that, you need to save your life or to fight against oppression or whatever the fuck, right? But for some reason, the Red Fuddery is really just adoption of a collector aesthetic, adoption of an aesthetic and collecting towards that aesthetic and then acting like you are now an quote unquote an armed leftist. And, it's really just like Soju said, you're just armed in name only, buying things to fit an aesthetic rather than stuff that we know works.
So one of the main guns that leftists like to revere, or really just prepper people in general, but especially leftists, they like to hold this gun, what's known as the SKS, in reverence. They hold this to almost a biblical status in terms of what this rifle is capable of, in terms of its reliability, in terms of its build quality, and so on. And I'm hoping to share with you all my SKS. This is a Norinco SKS that was built in China in, I believe, 1964-ish, something like that. It is all matching serial numbers, so as far as SKSs go, this is one of the better ones that you can get on the market. This particular one came from a garage sale from a family member who gave it to me for a birthday gift. I've since added the bayonet to it and cleaning rod as well. So let's talk about the SKS. So the SKS is a 18-inch barrel, a 7.62 by 39 semi-automatic rifle. It has a 10-round non-detachable magazine. So that means that as we load ammunition into the gun, we're going to be using stripper clips to push the ammo into the gun. And then from there, you would then rack it back. You've loaded your 10 rounds, you're good to go. One of the most common misconceptions I see, especially on Reddit, is the notion that the SKS is a practical self-defense option. It used to be back in the day, especially in the late 80s to early 90s, you could buy SKSs by the pallet. They would ship these in 55-gallon drums coated in cosmoline, basically by the dozen, and they were sub $100. Today, that is not the case. Today, an SKS is going to cost you, for a good example, between, at the very minimum, $500, even upwards of $1,000 in some instances for a mint condition, all matching serial number Russian SKS. This is by far what I would consider not a practical option for self-defense, especially for someone's first rifle. You are not a collector of Comblock era guns and you are looking for a serious self-defense option or a serious community defense option, the SKS is not for you. So one of the biggest downsides to owning an SKS, especially trying to use an SKS for daily use, is the way that you load an SKS. Here I have an AR pistol. This is a 10.5-inch Palmetto State Armory pistol right here with a mag from the Mag Project. Shout out to the Mag Project. But the way that you normally would load an AR-15 is very simple. You take the magazine, you hit the magazine release to release the mag. You then put the new mag in, and it's loaded. Just like that, we loaded in 30 rounds in this. The way that the SKS loads is quite different from an AR-15. It uses what's called a stripper clip. This is a stripper clip. The way that this works, normally they come from the factory preloaded with 10 rounds of 7.62 by 39. But this is the fastest way to do it on the SKS. Alright, so we've got our 10 rounds of ammunition separated here, as you can see. And we've got our stripper clip right here. I'm going to take one at a time, 10 rounds. We have since loaded our stripper clip. Now it's time to load the gun. The way that we do that, we take our bolt is sent backwards here. I'm going to push the stripper clip into the groove in the bolt just like that. And assuming everything goes perfectly, I'm going to shove the rounds into the non-detachable magazine. If you fuck this up, I guess you just try again. One time. Oh, didn't quite get it there. And we're done. At that point, I will remove the stripper clip. Well, looks like that top round didn't quite make it in. There we go. And now I did that. I set the bolt back home. In order to then use this gun, I will then charge it. Just like that, she's loaded. So I've showed you how to load it. Now I'm going to show you how to unload an SKS. This is with the 10-round non-detachable magazine. The way that this works, as you can see right here, the magazine, I'm going to hold the plunger type button situation. And I'm going to do my best to catch these because these rounds are going to fall loose out of this gun. So I'm going to try to catch them best I can. I dropped 6 of them there. I have 2 of them in my hand. And that's how we've unloaded the gun. There are better ways to do this. You don't need to suffer with an SKS. Just buy a goddamn AR-15.
No, in a world where you can get tools like an AR-15, which is arguably the best combat rifle ever designed, in a world where you can acquire that, then trying to find or deal with something that is lesser than, which all of these guns are, is absurd to me. In fact, you're going to pay more for less performance just because something looks cool. So no, if you're in a world where you can't acquire better, well, then anything will be better than nothing. But that's not the world we live in. And therefore, no, it's bizarre to choose something like an SKS which was an outdated design in 1947, in 2024, 2025, when you could pick up an AR-15 for like $500. SKSs are now expensive, so you're probably paying more for a less capable weapon because it's a collectible than you would if you just went with an AR-15 platform right off the bat. So you're paying more for less. You now have an issue of 10-round magazine capacity that is stripper clip fed, which was obsolete in World War II. Let's be realistic, or at least obsolescent in World War II. Definitely obsolete post World War II. It's not a detachable magazine. 7.62 by 39 as an intermediate cartridge has a little bit better penetration in regards to like brush and obstacles. However, that is not the default home cartridge of this turf that we live on. And Soviet cartridges, 7.62 by 39, 5.45 by 39, are becoming more and more difficult and expensive to acquire here than just standard 5.56. If you need to resupply for some reason, you're not going to be able to find ammunition easily, which you could with 5.56. You're dealing with insufficient iron sights that make the gun difficult to use with accuracy. And you kind of have a heavy boat anchor. The only thing you're really getting out of an SKS is it might look a little less offensive to someone that doesn't understand guns because it almost looks like a wooden stocked ranch rifle of some sort, but it is less capable in every possible way other than that.
When we're talking about what's practical in terms of a home defense weapon, we have to consider that it's not always going to be, 80 degrees and sunny and humid outside, right? Right now I'm standing in the middle of what most people would consider a blizzard, and I have with me a Norinco SKS. I'm going to demonstrate, just for educational purposes, what it's like to actually use something like this in a hypothetical situation. So we're going to pretend that I am being chased by, I don't know, a band of marauding thieves or people that show up at my front door in black Tahoes. And we're going to pretend that I'm under a very stressful situation. And I've already expended 9 rounds. This gun holds 10, remember? So I'm going to demonstrate for you what that looks like when I have to reload in a stressful situation in conditions that are not ideal. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fire 1 round. At that point, the bolt is going to hold itself open. In my pocket, I have a stripper clip ready to go. So I'm going to do it as fast as I possibly can. I'm going to shoot that last round. I'm going to reload the stripper clip and engage target once again. I'd like to remind you as the viewer, I've never practiced this. Certainly I could get better at it with enough practice, but what I'm going to argue is that even with as much practice as possible, this is still not an ideal situation because you're adding complexity to your reload. Okay, so at that point, I'm going to engage my target. 3, 2, 1. As fast as I can. I'm under a stressful situation here. Got my stripper clip. All right. Oh, fuck. Oh. Okay, well, that's just not going to work there. I only managed to get about 7 of them in. Chamber around. And I'm out. You can see how difficult that was for me to manage to reload this gun. And I didn't even get all 10 of them in. I only managed to get about 7 of them in. When we're talking about what's practical, we want to add as little complexity as possible into what we consider to be a practical defense weapon. So I've already showed you what the SKS looks like in a high stressful situation. This is my 10.5 inch AR pistol. This is nothing fancy. This is a Palmetto State Armory upper. I paid less than $200 for this upper. The entire gun, minus some little bits and doodads here, probably under $400. It's substantially lighter than the SKS. It also has the added advantage of 30-round detachable magazines. So we're going to do the same test that we just did with the SKS, only this time I'm going to shoot the first round out of this mag and reload. Normally I would have a chest rig in this condition. I'm going to pretend that we're in a stressful situation. Again, I'm being chased. I'm being actively hunted right now. I've already expended 29 rounds instead of the 9 that the SKS had. And I'm going to reload in a stressful situation. I'm going to load up here. I'm going to have gun on fire, chamber the round. So at that point, I am ready to go. Okay, are you ready? Engage target. Got Got my next mag ready to go. Drop that one. Next one in. And I was able to engage 30 rounds on target that time instead of 7. So you as the viewer, which one do you think is the more acceptable option in terms of what is a practical gun? What is a better gun to have just in general, especially as a first purchase, or for someone who's taking their safety seriously in 2025?
Yes, if you train with something, you will be better at it than you would had you not. Like, obviously. That's true for anything. That's true for a blunderbuss or a musket. I don't care. But, like, if you train with an AR-15 just as much as you train with an SKS, you're probably going to be a lot more effective with the AR-15. So, like, yeah, like, I think truly, like, if there is something that you can get and it's all you can get and that's the only thing you have access to and, like, you are absolutely committed to whatever that platform is, then, like, yeah, obviously you should train with it no matter what if you want to be effective with it. But if you have an option, if you have a choice to get something better so that you can get more out of your training and be more effective, then why wouldn't you? You know? Like, that's kind of like, I think the nuance to all of that. Like, yeah, you should be training with the best thing that you can possibly get. Period. I get it. Like, all this is coming from cope from people who just have made bad purchasing decisions and are holding on to dear life, trying to delude themselves into thinking that they're more capable than they are. And these people generally don't own shot timers, they don't attend competitions. Otherwise, you know, if they did, I would love to see your bill drill with an SKS. I'd love to see you run, you know, some competitions with your SKS. Like, go do PCSL with an SKS. Go do, you know, PRS with an SKS and see how you do. The proof is in the pudding. So yeah, it's like, again, if you're married to the platform, you got no other choice. Like, if somebody gave you an SKS and is like, this is the only gun you can ever own for the rest of your life, then, like, yeah, damn well, I'm gonna try to get good at using it. But, like, again, if you've got options, which, you know, if you're starting from a blank slate right now, it is cheaper to buy an AR-15 than an SKS, and it is objectively better to do so for your own good if you are trying to be effective with a rifle.
A Red Fud will say someone who trains with an SKS is better than a beginner with an AR-15, even though that's arguably not true. They grossly overestimate the durability and reliability of something like this SKS right here. This rifle is 60, 70, 80 years old. I mean, there's people with Mosins that are 110 years old, and they hold these guns to such a high esteem that they're just not capable of doing what Red Fudds believe that they are capable of doing. They'll say something like, using this AR-15 is an imperialist LARP, or, you know, you're not serious, or you're only trying to play the part, but you're not actually doing it. They'll say something like, this SKS is practical, even though it's arguably not practical because it's harder to use and harder to be efficient with than something like this right here. A Red Fud will say that in a banned state such as California, New York, in some states, an SKS is a better option over an AR-15 that's been cut, that's been compliant and featureless. Arguably not true as well.
No, I don't. I think I mean the lengths that people are going to justify just a tangibly, objectively shittier option is very funny to me. I want to put for the record that, like, the Russian military wanted to replace the SKS like ASAP. I was like, oh, we have a better gun, the AK. Well, we're gonna do it. It's just like, no, like, it's not better. I don't care if it's an irons only option. The AR is still a better, more reliable. All the things we talked about before. Like, you're still gonna have more better options in the aftermarket too, with mags and grips or whatever. I would still expect that an average modern manufactured AR today to run better in reliably long term than an average SKS, and I just think it's a ridiculous argument. I mean, it went from, you know, we're going from saying the gun as a whole is just as good to now saying, well, it's good if everything is shitty. It's like, no, it's like, it's good nowhere.
Yeah, you know, because we talked to upstate New York about this on our podcast, right? And none of them are like, yeah, go buy an SKS, right? Because they know it's not as good. To me, saying, oh, the SKS is a good option for banned states just seems like a post hoc justification for a terrible purchasing decision. When if you joined a group like Upstate New York SRA or spoke to them at all, you would know how comically easy it is to make a compliant rifle that is cheaper and better in every respect, right? Like, saying it's a legitimate option for a band state only makes sense if you don't, if you really haven't done the research in what it means to own a band state rifle, right? So when we were talking to Upstate New York, we're talking about switching out a grip, putting a $7 piece of plastic in your stock to make your stock no longer telescoping, right? Having a different muzzle device, right? And it's comically easy to make, especially the AR because it's so modular. Band state compliant. These are people in New York. You know what I mean? Like this is they're living in one of the most restrictive firearm states in the country. And if they can do it and they have the know-how, like, do 10 minutes of Google research and figure it out, or just listen to our podcast. I learned a ton from that. And after that, like, anyone who says that the SKS is a great option for a band state, really has just not done even a modicum of research into what a band state rifle actually is.
No, even then, if you're talking about nuts to nuts, even with the fixed 10-round mag, like taking out the 30-round removable mag options, you're stuck with a fixed 10-rounder. You live in California. One, there are really awesome speed loaders that have been developed for the AR version that work significantly faster than even stripper clips. Two, even skipping past all of that, even just saying, okay, well, they both have ways of loading in rounds fast. Why does it matter? Because you can still add lights. You can still find a handguard that fits you better. You can still, if you need the Cali compliant grip, maybe you find one that actually your hand can hold better and give you an accurate shot better. There's a lot of really accurate rifles styles of shooting that require you to take your thumb and you just put it like this so that you're not torquing during the shot. Maybe you find a grip that applies that and works well with you. You can't change anything on the SKS. You can still make your AR yours. And worse, you're talking about twice as much money at bare minimum.
The SKS is also not capable of mounting optics to it as it comes off of the factory. You can see right here, there is no optic rail on here. This particular one does have an aftermarket dust cover that you can see right here. But the issue with that is that the dust cover is wobbly. It does not hold zero on there. You can spend all day long trying to zero this gun, and at the very best, you will get between 5 and 10 MOA because this is going to wobble and move. Another issue with mounting an optic to the dust cover is that it ejects the cases into the optic. So if your optic's hanging like this, the case is going to hit the optic every single time you fire and shoot. You can mount optics to it if you buy aftermarket parts. But the problem with that is the aftermarket parts are often airsoft quality at best. There's no reputable manufacturers that are making optic mounts for this. So it's going to be, if you want it done correctly, it's probably going to be a custom side mount on that side of the rifle. Or they make mounts that you would replace the gas tube with, but then that moves your optic all the way up here instead of where you would traditionally want it back here. It's far from a good option. Many people are not going to want to mount optics to this, or they're going to do it incorrectly and really struggle to make good hits and be accurate with this gun just because of the way that it's designed. It was never meant to receive aftermarket optics. If we look at an AR-15 in comparison, this is my 3D printed AR-15. The only difference with this one and a normal AR-15 is that this one is an unregistered ghost gun. However, the upper receiver is exactly the same. This is actually a Smith & Wesson M&P Sport 2. You can get this gun, I believe, right around $800 to $1,000, probably even less. I haven't looked at them in a while. But the top of this gun is all Picatinny rail. So I can have any kind of optic on here I want. I have right here a 1:6 LPVO from Strike Eagle. This optic is illuminated. So regardless of the lighting conditions, day or night, I'm able to get a sight picture from this and have an illuminated red dot so I know without a doubt where my rounds are going to hit.
The only way is if you, in 2025, you happen to invent a time machine that'll bring you all the way back to like 2006. Because there was a time where you could go into a hardware store and put down like $100 bill and be handed an actual fucking crate of SKSs. And at that pricing, okay, I mean, for like $200 for a pile of fucking rifles, still in Cosmoline, like unfired, perfect condition. Everybody treats these like the garbage rods that they are. Okay, actually, maybe as a first rifle, where like you could find one with whatever the equivalent of Gunbroker would have been for like $50. Sure. All right, you're not even breaking. You're spending more on your ammo than you are on the gun for training at first. Fine, whatever. In an era of $400 PSA ARs, there is no universe where it makes any sort of sense, especially given the optic mounting solutions for upgrading that SKS are either spending a couple $100 and like nightmare reconfiguring it, or basically having a non-functional optic, because every single one of the dust cover options are just terrible. There's no good SKS optic mounting solution.
This country is not the home of that weapon system. If you were in Eastern Europe or somewhere in Africa where the country's just awash with surplus stuff, and AKs are just laying around a dime a dozen, well, that's different than the situation we have here, in which AKs have now become sort of collectibles, actually, and any sort of modernization. If you get a stock AK with just iron sights, you're already woefully behind the curve in terms of a modern gun. Modern guns, iron sights are backups. You're using a red dot or some sort of magnified optic. You need the ability to have a white light at least to be able to identify something in low light conditions, and that's at a minimum. And to put any of that stuff onto an AK is quite honestly difficult and a kludge, and you're going to be looking for accessories in this country that are going to be high priced and low performance and low value. And with an AR-15, they're literally, it's everywhere. Like you could walk on the street and sometimes find AR-15 components laying around. I'm not even kidding. That stuff is so prolific that because this is the home country of that weapon system, and therefore it is, you're playing on home base at that point, not someone else's game. I see a lot of times people talking about the AK like it's almost like they think they're riding a unicorn into battle. And again, I think there will be someone offended in the audience, but this is the truth. If you are of that mindset, the truth is you have been propagandized. And the AK is it is an excellent weapon platform. Definitely was when it first came about. It's showing its age now, but once again, it is still behind the AR-15. And I've done this on InRange quite a bit. And all of my work to make this gun as capable as I can get it, I am never anywhere closer than 90% of the same performance I would get with an AR-15. I'm always 10% slower with an AK in everything. And the accuracy is less, meaning your range, of course, is diminished. And that's if you can even get the magazines and the ammo to use it in the first place.
Now, I already know what a lot of you are going to say. You're going to say, but Yeezy, what about the AK-47? That rifle is known for its reliability. Many people use it all over the world. Surely, it's a viable practical option in 2025 as your only practical defense weapon. A lot of you know this about me, that I am an AK competition shooter. I love the AK platform a lot. I love how it's rugged. I love just the manual ka-chunk feeling that you get shooting this gun. However, even though, as I'm about to demonstrate, that I am intimately familiar with this platform and I've actively practiced reloading under pressure, this gun is not nearly as practical as an AR-15. I hear a lot that people consider the AK-47 to be legendarily reliable. I'm going to share with you some of my competition footage, and I will let you be the judge on if you would consider this reliable or not.
Ready, stand by!
Oh, shit, that's a gnarly fuck up.
Drop that mag. Alright, put it in again.
There we go.
There we go. Yes. Stand by.
This is what you might call suboptimal. I don't know what happened here, but definitely can't use this. For starters, the bolt doesn't hold open when you're changing mags. So I'm going to have to then re-rack a new round into the chamber. We're going to do the same practice scenario one more time. We're going to practice that again. I'm in a high stressful situation. I need to engage targets as fast as I can. In this situation, I've already expended 30 rounds. I need to then change mags after expending the last round here and re-engage targets. I'm going to show you that even though I may have a advantage in this particular platform, because I have done it under pressure many times, it's still not going to be the better option. So I'm gonna rack the first round into there. I'm just gonna reload as fast as I possibly can. Okay, are you ready? Engage target. Get that mag out of there. Mag in. High stressful situation here. Okay, I'm actively being chased. Put that. So you can see I still managed to struggle quite a bit when I was reloading this weapon. It's not as fast as an AR-15 because you have to rock the magazine into position and you still have to rechamber the round yourself. There is no bolt catch on this one. Hit the button and chamber our next round. You do get the added benefit of having a detachable 30-round magazine. However, that still does not make this a better option in 2025. If you are of the opinion that the SKS is genuinely a practical gun for self-defense, I have some questions for you as a Red Fud that I really want you to think strongly about and really consider moving forward. Is a spike bayonet really a practical option in 2025? Are you really going to get much use out of this bayonet? Are you really going to impale someone? Do you plan on, I don't know, skewering kebabs over a bonfire? If this is a practical self-defense situation, what the fuck are you going to do with this bayonet in 2025? I get a lot of people who ask me about community defense, about protecting their queer folk, about protecting their communities that they care about, their affinity groups that they care about. I want you to consider if you think that the SKS or really any comm block era surplus gun is a practical, effective self-defense option. Do you really think that people are going to take you seriously if you are the only person in your affinity group that has a wooden SKS when everyone else has AR-15? Do you really think that the public whom you're trying to protect, the people that you care about the most, are really going to take you seriously if you think that this gun that you already have acknowledged has pitfalls are going to take you seriously if this is what you show up to protect them with? Another question that I want to ask you is, what if you need a new bolt for your SKS? What if you need to change the barrel on your SKS? I'm going to let you know right now, these parts are not necessarily as easy to come by as an AR-15. I challenge you to find any shop, any brick and mortar shop that's going to have a bolt for your SKS. I also challenge you to find any gunsmith anywhere near you that is capable, not only knowledgeable and knows how, but is actually capable of rebarreling your rifle. I'm gonna let you know right now, you're gonna have a very hard time finding someone that not only knows how, but is set up to do such a procedure on the SKS. If someone breaks into your home in the middle of the night, are you prepared to use this gun in a self-defense situation? Keep in mind, you can't mount any optics to this. You can't mount any lights to this. So you're going to be using this gun in the dark, at night. The gun is significantly longer. You have an 18-inch barrel on this gun. Have you practiced maneuvering in your house with this particular rifle? Are you prepared to take shots in the dark with this gun, even though you're unable to get a clear sight picture with your iron sights? Are you prepared to engage a target past 100 yards? Have you even tried with this gun? I'm going to let you know right now, it's significantly more difficult, and you make it harder on yourself when you don't have to make it harder on yourself if you would just consider modern options. Many Red Fudds are willing to acknowledge the downsides of having an SKS or a Mosin or a Tokarev. They acknowledge that these guns have pitfalls. Why would you purposely set yourself up for failure if you admit that the gun is worse on one hand, but then on the other hand, say that it is a viable alternative? By trying to thread this needle and saying that the SKS or the Mosin is just as good as modern options like a modern bolt-action gun or a modern AR-15, you set yourself up for failure, and you set up new people for failure. You are setting a bad example for people who are new to firearm ownership and who are not only new but scared in the current political climate. These people need your advice. They need your assistance. They're coming to you for knowledge, and you are knowingly telling them an option that is an inferior option to modern weapons. You not only set people up for failure, you also set them up in a dangerous situation, especially if that's all the money that they have. You are setting people up for failure by suggesting that an SKS is a viable alternative to an AR-15 when they are worried about protecting themselves, their families, friends, and their livelihoods. There is a reason why the AR-15 is the most common rifle in the United States. And it's not because some leftist guerrilla group used it in the Cold War era.
I think people are like, oh, CZ, like they have a cool history. I don't want to like buy the stuff from the Austrian fascists or whatever. Like, whatever, again, like preconceived notions they have about manufacturers and like the baggage that comes with them. Like, yeah, there's truth to all of that. But like, I don't shoot this gun that much anymore at all, really. And I definitely don't carry it anymore. I carry my, Glock because this thing is just not as practical either. Like, I fell into a whole trap of being obsessed with like having a slightly better or different Glock rather than just getting a Glock. And I realized that the Glock is actually more concealable and it has better parts availability, and the magazines, you can buy them off the shelf anywhere. And you really can't do that with the CZP-10C as easily, and it like eventually just became less practical for me to carry and train with, because like I break magazines because I train a lot. So don't fall for weird online hipster marketing that like plays into whatever values that you might be like trying to instill in an inanimate object. That's again kind of more of an extension of what we've been talking about, but like within even contemporary context of firearms, just get what's practical, get what's easy, get what's available and is easy to maintain and feed.
Who does CZ arm now? Like military and police. Who does Smith and Wesson arm? What does M&P stand for? Military and police. Who does Glock arm right now? Military and police. Like, you're not going to escape it. Paradoxically, these things are good because a lot of people use them. And, the biggest groups of people use them are military and police.
The tool itself doesn't have an ideology baked into it. And when we look at the military industrial complex, whether it's in the United States or elsewhere, you'll see some countries try to use different weapons platforms. Let's just pick, let's throw one out there. France, one you might not think of. They had their FAMAS, their home-baked military weapon, their firearm, the standard for them. They used it for a while and then realized that they were behind the curve and needed to modernize. What did they go to? An AR style platform, the HK416. Over and over again, you see the people that do this as their job, whether you agree with their job or not, the ones that are the professionals keep falling back to some AR-15 derivative and some Glock derivative. And the reason for that is They want the best tools to do the thing they want to do. And if you believe or do not believe in a monopoly of force in the world, you would be best equipped to use the best tools as well. And looking at them as why they're picking those tools might be instructional as to why you might want to pick those tools, regardless of the fact that you have nothing in alignment of their ideology.
It is okay. The moral of the story is it is okay for you as the Red Fudd to just admit that you appreciate these guns for their historical value and because they are genuinely, objectively fun to shoot. But you don't need to pretend that they are an actual alternative to an AR-15. I want you to ask yourself, are you a leftist gun owner or are you a gun owner who happens to be leftist?